I wanted to dive a little bit into the third reason you talked about relational tension. You talked about when you were co-CEO and just the
Mhm.
exhaustion you felt in the constant conversations. So this is something that I guess I feel like is just so underappreciated about the nature of family. And that is that there's a question, there's certain different kinds of families have different levels of decision making that they have to, you have to make all kinds of decisions about money. You have to make decisions about where to live. You have to make decisions about, your children's education, how many kids to have. I mean, there's thousands of decisions. And I would say that modern family has a fraction of the decisions that the ancient family had in terms of and in the importance of decision. The ancient family had to decide, I mean, about alliances. And I mean, it was just the safety concerns. So much of that's taken off our plate, where some families are so individualized that the primary decisions they're making as a family are which restaurant to go to and,
Mm.
which movie to watch on Netflix. And you're like, I'm not going to give somebody a trump card in that. But
Right.
there's still like budgets, there's still things. Hyper affluent families that are hyper individualized have the least number. Like they might be able to pare down the amount of pressure on that co-CEO team down to, you know, 2% of the pressure that would have been on the leader in a traditional family. Okay. So that's a variable. But I would say that most families, especially if you're struggling financially with budgets, there's gonna be a lot of pressure on that two-headed monster. And so what's gonna actually happen, and this is what I've discovered over and over again, is that just like you discovered in your co-CEO situation, that you wear each other out for
Mhm.
and that is designed to do that. And then as soon as that happens, you've created a pattern in the family. So picture a family where the husband and wife are just constantly fighting. No one's in charge. They're not able to work this out really well. And a husband just says, look, I really wanted to go this direction with our family, but I just can't fight anymore. I give in to you. And let's say that happens at 6 months of the marriage, or a guy who's really resilient and it's like 3 years into the marriage. There's still a single CEO of that family. It's just now it happens through the process of being in a cage match and somebody gets exhausted. And so
Yes.
every time I really get to know a family, I would say there are exceptions to this, but they're very rare. Virtually every time I get to know a family, I can tell you who the CEO is, right?
Mm.
And so so I would just say part of the argument that I would make about your third point, the relational tension, is that it isn't true. What's really frustrating is you might be frustrated by the default nature. Somebody might be frustrated by the default nature of the leadership going to the husband for various reasons. But and you may in word say that you believe in, like there was an article that just got published. It was like huge New York Times. I don't know if you saw the Ballerina Farm controversy,
My
but
wife was telling me about it. Yeah.
okay. But basically, the New York Times did kind of a hit piece on this traditional family. And one of the things that they said in their defense, because basically the hit piece was saying this woman is actually, they have 8 kids, is really under the leadership of this man. And the man said, we are co-CEOs. That's the phrase he actually used. In order to defend himself, this is a Mormon family, in order to defend himself against the accusation that in reality he was exerting an unusual amount of influence over his wife. And I just got so frustrated with the whole conversation, because I was like, first of all, if he would have ever said what you said in this essay, that I'm actually leading this family and Chandler is in a way submitting to me as the head of the family, that would have blown up in ways that would have been so much more dramatic. But instead, and what was really happening and what she was sort of saying is, but if you actually hang out with the family for like a few hours, you can tell that the husband's in charge. That was kind of her case. And I was
Mhm.
like, yeah, so what? Like, again, you can hang out with the family for a couple hours and see that the wife's in charge. Like,
Yes.
put me in any house and I'll tell you you can, maybe the kid's in charge. I've been in a house. I spent the night once at a house where I could tell the 8-year-old was the CEO of the family. I mean, it was obvious from like 10 minutes into the thing, and the
Mhm.
whole night that the wife was in submission to her 8-year-old son, and then she would force her husband to be in submission to the 8-year-old. But this happens in every family. You can't exist in a situation where you're in a cage match and you're constantly needing to make decisions, and for some pattern not to
Yes.
develop around who's the.
Eventually, you select someone and think, "Well,
Yes,
we're
it's
gonna
going
follow
to
this
happen
person."
by default
Absolutely.
anyway. Yeah, it's a
Yes.
complete
Mm.
myth that you can somehow exist. It's normal. And
Yes.
if we do say it's normal, if we do say, no, 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 you should be co-CEOs for the 50 plus years you're married. Then I can tell you right now that that design sucks. And that's what your
Yes.
fiance is saying. And because it sucks, it's going to destroy that entity. And guess what happens? We are living according to a blueprint that's constantly breaking down, and
Yes.
it's predictably. So because we refuse to have this conversation, yeah, this is what's occurred.